judges, members of the judiciary, or employees of government, but rather members of the public who we serve. For that reason, we chose to focus on two critical urgent themes that are affecting the rule of law, access to justice, and administration generally. The first one being practicing law amid military rule. Practicing law amid military rule. The legal profession in Uganda currently operates in an environment heavily overshadowed by excessive militarization, where military forces and militarized tactics increasingly intrude our civilian justice processes, democratic exercises, and an independent practice of law. The government is imposing state of emergency-like measures nationwide, citing national security as an excuse. But this is being done without the necessary constitutional and statutory checks. You may recall the recent shutdown of the internet and social media, which had catastrophic effects on the delivery of goods and services to the people. Meanwhile, the office of the DPP and the courts seem complicit in this move, as recently seen in their draconian handling of cases like the blanket sanctioning of trumped-up charges, the blanket denial of bond, bail, and habeas corpus for protesters and government critics, and the routinization of delay in fixing cases challenging government-initiated restrictions on free speech, public gatherings, and other human rights concerns, resulting in effective approval of authoritarianism. These actions by justice, law, and order institutions suggest a pattern of rubber-stamping excessive decisions rather than acting as an independent check on power. During the recently concluded elections, this unwarranted militarization manifested starkly through the widespread deployment of military personnel in what should remain purely civilian and democratic spaces. Lawyers alongside ordinary citizens face unlawful arrests, violence, intimidation, and coercion. Prominent human rights defenders have been systematically targeted. NGOs and CSOs have been arbitrarily suspended. Activists have been arbitrarily arrested, detained, assaulted, and are now likely to be tried in military courts for performing their professional or civic duties. And these are actions that undermine the independence of the bar and the rule of law in the country. The Uganda Law Society is right now dealing with an alarming surge in enforced disappearances, abductions, extrajudicial killings, and prolonged retrial detention. This follows reports of thousands of arrested around the elections and tens of hundreds summarily executed, often in military-involved operations, highlighting a growing concern over human rights abuses. At least you've seen the CDF post about this, talking about the arrests and the killings, though what you may not be sure of are the numbers that are being mentioned out there. There's also this major challenge of denial or severe restriction of bail. We all know that bail is a fundamental constitutional right, and now it has become routine, transforming it from a norm into an exceptional privilege granted sparingly, prolonging suffering for detainees and their families. This has caused many Ugandan court users to wonder and complain angrily. What are lawyers for if courts won't listen to them or adhere to the basic principles of law, such as the right to bail, preferring instead to adhere to state expediency or convenience? And this has been a daily routine. We are learning that right now, getting bail from any court is a privilege of a few. Courts are being used by the state to punish civilians. It's almost impossible to get bail, even on the simplest of the cases, because the excuse usually is a political case, there are orders from above. Yet we talk of an independent judiciary. That's what the Constitution says, that's what is envisaged in the Constitution. But what is the reality on the ground? And this worries us as the bar, as the National Bar Association, and it should also worry the citizens. This has further exacerbated the problem of prison overcrowding, which has reached crisis proportions, exacerbated by the police to prison pipeline that funnels large numbers into extended remand without timely court conclusions, compounding inhumane conditions and violating rights to speedy justice. Just yesterday, I was speaking to someone who came out of detention and informed me that on the day of election, the 15th, the prison where he was detained was filled beyond capacity, that they couldn't even sleep. There was no way. People were just brought and sent in. They were just pushed there. That's the situation in the prisons, which are already overcrowded. Unfortunately, these people are taken through the court process, through police, DPP, courts, automatically remanded. The other big issue is militarization of justice, which in itself persists through attempts to prosecute civilians in military tribunals. As recently seen in the inauguration of office bearers at the General Court Martial, despite the Supreme Court ruling against it, entrenching repression, denying fair trial standards, and intimidating legal practitioners who defend dissenters. Another troubling issue is the shrinking civic space in Uganda. And you may also recall that 2 days to the national election, that was on 13th January, the NGO Bureau suspended the operating permits of several civil society organizations under vague claims of national security. That has always been the excuse. To date, these suspensions remain in force, effectively silencing organizations that play a vital role in governance, human rights, and public accountability. These are attempts to intimidate, weaken, and silence civil society, whose role we all understand very well. These are not isolated incidents or abstract policy concerns. They represent lived traumas, shattered livelihoods, terrified families, eroded community trust in justice institutions, and a chilling effect on lawyers' willingness to take politically sensitive cases. I believe most of our colleagues shy away from taking part in some of these cases because they will be victimized, because they will be considered to be part of that. And this has killed legal practice in this country so badly that lawyers also tend to go in hiding because of what's happening. The statutory mandate of the bar to advise the public on legal matters and uphold the rule of law compels us to speak plainly, and this is what we are doing. Uganda's excessive militarization of civilian and judicial spheres inflicts deep, systematic harm on human rights, democratic integrity, and the legal profession's ability to function independently. And this is what we have to say, that there are no easy fixes for this mess. Only a radical new bar can step up and kickstart proposals proportionate resistance and resilience efforts. And today's dialogue is the starting point. We should stop pretending holding events or just cutting ribbons and smiling and eating and enjoying when Ugandans are actually out there suffering and they are looking at us. We are their only hope. If the justice sector cannot protect the citizens, then who will protect them? At least with the basics. Now, the second focus of today's program is the launch of the Uganda Law Society's Election Observation Report, a product of extensive national engagement and professional commitment by our membership. Our first recommendation is that the government of Uganda should publicly acknowledge and condemn all election-related human rights violations and take concrete steps to prevent their occurrence. Now, we know this is too much to ask, but it is the role of the government to ensure that all state institutions and agents are strictly within the confines of the law and respect constitutional guarantees. Another recommendation, we call upon the Uganda Human Rights Commission to conduct thorough, independent, and timely investigations into all these the reported election-related human rights violations. It has a constitutional mandate, and we expect the commission to, produce and publish this comprehensive report for the public to see, with action taken. Another recommendation, we urge the judiciary to ensure the timely, impartial, and effective resolution of all electoral disputes in strict compliance with constitutional and statutory timelines. We know the impact delays in these adjudications causes, so that's why we're calling upon the judiciary to ensure this is done timely. The other day I had the new Chief Justice mention it during the annual judges conference, calling upon the colleagues to do that. Now we also call upon the Uganda Police Force and other security agencies to strictly adhere to the principles of legality, necessity, proportionality, and accountability in maintenance of law and order during elections. Security agencies must desist from arbitrary arrests, unlawful detention, and the use of excessive force. And what we are saying as the Uganda Society is where these abuses are done, where we know specific individual officers, these persons shall be prosecuted. So we call upon the police to also investigate and hold these people accountable. If you remember, in the last cycle, 2021, we know so many people are shot dead. We've also seen where, identified security personnel have, done some of these heinous acts, but we've not seen the institution come out to actually give a report that this person has been investigated, action has been taken, yet they have disciplinary bodies to do this. So we call upon them to do that. Again, we also have a recommendation for the Director of Public Prosecution, who is urged to exercise, his office is urged to exercise its mandate independently and impartially by expanding the review and prosecution of cases arising from election-related violence and human rights abuses. We therefore call for discontinuation of prosecution of politically motivated cases, because we've seen some of these charges. And I must report that before that, I think, of the internet shutdown, we had a meeting with the DPP himself, and we raised these issues. He promised to take steps, but we are calling upon the DPP openly. The DPP office should not allow to be used by, politicians to, to send some of these cases to court when they're not supposed to be there. Then we also have another recommendation for the Electoral Commission. My friend Nambula has already said they should resign. Someone said they should be prosecuted. So I don't want to give a recommendation that is, which might wash all that. But as it is for now, we believe the Electoral Commission should have, should be strengthened as an independent institution. This is also for the future. And, we should have them operate effectively to ensure the conduct of elections that meet constitutional and international standards. As they are aware, constitutionally, the Electoral Commission should be independent. But then we are seeing some of these challenges where it does not appear independent. And again, we also felt at some point the Electoral Commission was not in charge of the process, yet constitutionally and by law, it's the Electoral Commission that should have been in charge of this process. But we saw some orders being made, some arrests being made, some people being prevented from, campaigning, and the Electoral Commission was silent. It showed that the Commission was actually not in charge of the process it should have been in charge of. We saw other powers and other forces doing the work which should have been done by the Commission, which led to a lot of confusion. Again, for Parliament, we have new members. I'm glad our colleague George Musisi is going to the House and other members of the bar. This should be part of your first tasks. We are saying the Parliament should review and amend electoral and public order laws that enable and facilitate human rights violations, and also to ensure adequate funding to institutions that are dealing with protection of human rights. But then again, when it comes to amendment of the laws, we've been seeing issues, for example, the powers given to the chief magistrates in these issues of vote recount, as well as the Electoral Commission. We saw my colleague Treasurer talked about the denominating of candidates. Should the Electoral Commission, which participated in nominating these people, again be the arbiter in the same case? Those are areas of reform. So we have a soft copy of the report. As Robert will communicate, this is just the hard copies are few for purposes of this occasion. Yeah, but we shall have a QR code where you can access the report. It's also going to be downloaded on our website. You can access the report there and get the details. So as we go down, Robert, please, we have other colleagues who should be signing the report.
Adjourn a simple bail application in a magistrate's court. I don't know. And we as lawyers, we keep quiet about all this. We have a lot of people arrested, not because they are national in the platform, but because they are change-seeking forces. The big example is our colleague Marima. You speak about facts, and because someone has an office which he thinks is the highest, feels so much ashamed, and the only way to punish you is take you to prison for hate speech. Your bail will not be entertained because you have not uploaded documents. Which documents? LC letters and national IDs. It's so hard thing. This is no longer an NUP issue, but this is a national issue, where lawyers are being charged for offenses because they are criticizing the bad acts of the government, where journalists cannot do coverages because they are covering things that are against those regime apologists, where business people cannot freely trade in the markets down because they are associated with a political party. This should stop. My goal is that, and on behalf of NUP, let's not look at this as an NUP issue, but a national issue, where people are being abducted in broad daylight, where people are being killed without a trial. Those are extrajudicial killings, and then someone comes tomorrow and says, we have killed the two terrorists, a CDF of the country. This is hurting. The call to the Uganda Law Society is that we invite you, all of you. You shouldn't be a human rights lawyer, you shouldn't be related to politics or what, but these are matters of us as a nation. And we, the lawyers, are the leading this. Let everyone leave alone their political sides. And let's all join efforts. We have many people around the country in almost every district. 3,000 are the people that we have tried to trace, but many are still missing. So we call upon every one of you to come and join us, support, and see how we can move this country. There is one word that has been sent to me from the legal fraternity of the NUP that I want to read for you and quote from Pastor Martin Neymar. That first they came for communists. I did not speak because I'm not a communist. Then the second, they came for socialists, and I did not speak because I'm not a socialist. When they came for trade unionists, I also kept quiet because I'm not a trade unionist. When they come for me, there was no one to speak for me, and that's how I ended. They are not only attacking lawyers, they are attacking every human being. But let us, as lawyers and other activists, change seeking forces, do what we can before it is our time. There has been Mamilizi, today has been Dr. Zepliga, today has been Judith Kamushaba, but tomorrow it might be you. And if we have kept quiet about these ones we have heard of, who will come speak for you? I thank you so much.
Seeing Ugandans lose their lives. I was so touched when Nina Rose brought it out. You know, you can never understand the pain of losing someone. Not until you probably lose someone so close to you. So, that is the feeling that is in the hearts. Who lost their loved ones. These are people who died yearning for change. These are Ugandans who died yearning to see certain ideas being implemented. Of course, as any other Ugandan, I woke up on the 15th of January 2025 participating in these elections. Where elections were held and where I participated, that is in Rwanda, voting began at around 10. And of course, the reason was that the machines were unable to operate. And we as Uganda Law Society, this is where we come out and we say, but laws are not put in place for the sake of it. When you look at, when you read the Parliamentary Elections Act, the Presidential Elections Act, they are quite clear. These machines were not made for the sake of it. It had some been following the presidential petition. Here people rubbish away. Those are things that we are away with. Here substantiality, we need to affect substantiality. That is all wrong. When we go on the path of democracy, we should stick to that path. And that is why when I meet security officials, I always tell them, stop hiding under the guise of security, national security. For crying out loud, we all want security. We all want that peace, the stability. Who wouldn't want it? Because it is one of the key drivers of economic development. But the levels of intimidation are high. I think people in Kampala used to see military men moving around the streets of Kampala. Maybe that is why maybe to some it is okay. But security officials parading themselves with guns on the streets of any city in Uganda is not business as usual. I want us to agree, this is not business as usual. Uganda is a peace loving. So that notion of security should be stopped by the security organs. Because this is one of the reasons as to why there is a low voter turnout. On the 27th of January, I happened to go again and vote. But the numbers were so low. Why? The individuals are high. Ugandans are losing hope. And of course, this is all part of the blueprint. To all the people that are here, the issue of making Ugandans lose hope, the fatigue, we call it political fatigue, is all part of the blueprint. When you're out there and you feel that you're fatigued about the political environment, just know you're falling in the trap. And that is where, as a radical leader, we are here to drown hope in Ugandans. For the readers of history, I always tell you, and I continue to state now, when you read about history, the Mau Mau rebellion, name it. You go read about those rebellions. They happen in a time like now. The great men and women that you read about are men that stood up. These are women that stood up. The times might be different, but the conditions are the same. Don't leave this to the Rose. Don't leave this to Honorable. Don't leave this to the Radical Labour Council or any political head. Power belongs to the people. Power belongs to you, belongs to me, and everyone. When we are meeting the African Union, the head of the African Union, one of the things that came out, which is going to bring problems in this country, is that issue of denomination by the Electoral Commission. The habit of the Electoral Commission nominating and denominating is wrong. That is why I always say that in the politics, we should debate on ideas. That is the problem I have with some political players. They say it is perceived as terrorism, it is perceived as hate speech. Don't be surprised when, after this function, the judge is sanction against some of the speakers today. And the judge is hate speech. But these ideas that you're bringing forward, denomination should stop. This happened in Nigeria. The Electoral Commission in Nigeria was denominating people like nobody's business. And of course, that was intended probably to give others political influence. No wonder nowadays you see a lot of people who are coming unopposed. Denomination. You take, we have right now, we have more than 30 lawyers who are in parliament. Even us as Radical Labour, we are going to write a paper on this issue, denomination and electoral commission. These should be powers that are reserved by the High Court. Once you nominate, you funct as official. Since I was given a minute, I had a lot to say, but we'll end with that. My prayer is that we should let's love our neighbor, regardless of their political affiliations. It's best to go to the security officials, the government officials. Let's love our neighbors. Just because I have a different view from you, even in the situation you shoot me, destroy the property, to abduct me. Because in the daily morning that people are missing. People are missing. Honestly, how can a human being miss? This topic just makes me emotional. I'll end there. I'll turn the mic to you.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give a round of applause to the Vice President as he launches the general elections report. And this is going to be shared publicly. The report is going to be shared publicly. We shall ask the council members first to sign against the dummy. As has been explained, you realize that there is just too much